And it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Geordies here, Geordies there, and we've got a packed show tonight. Plenty to talk about, as always, about Newcastle United as the season edges ever closer. Good evening to George, to Mitch, to Kevin, to Steve, and to Spenny. And let's start with something slightly different. We're not going to start with tickets, as everybody would probably imagine. We're going to start with Alexander Isak. He announced himself into the Premier League last season and hit the ground running, got injured, came back and scored some pretty impressive goals, made some interesting assists. And a lot of people feel, including former coach at Newcastle, Dean Saunders, that this could be his season. He could be an outside bet for the Golden Boot this year. If he's a betting man, I'd like to know the odds. But George, Alexander Isak, is he somebody who could win the Golden Boot next season, do you think?
Yes. I can't remember a player that's given me more excitement on his season debut in the past than Alexander Isak. When I seen him and playing initially, and that goal, the assist he made at Everton, when he left about 6 defenders sitting on the backsides while he passed the ball across to Murphy to go into the back of the net. That's supreme skill. And as I say, the sort of excitement I get about his debut season is the sort of excitement I've got when I saw Supermac come, when I saw Andy Cole come. That's where he is, in my opinion. He's just tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And it's one thing having the skill, but to have the pace that goes with it. Heading ability as well. He's not frightened to have a go at the ball in the air. And he's got a slight frame, but he's not easily knocked off the ball. That nobody's going to knock him off the ball easy. So, yeah, it is a big thing to say, but Dean Saunders is somebody who I value, to be honest. But his first touch, I can't think of anything that worries me about him. The main thing is to keep him on track, and he's at the right club with Eddie Howe. Yes, short answer, he could easily be the Golden Boot man if he gets the opportunities.
Okay, Kevin, he's certainly made a big impression in Newcastle's team, and it was between him and Wilson for a start. They played together briefly in some games, but I think it's just that mazy run to the byline and cutting it back, and Murphy scoring. I think we all probably remember, as well as a couple of the goals he scored. But yeah, is he a shout for the Golden Boot? Do you think, if he has an injury-free season and has a good run?
Absolutely, but one big caveat is, will he get the service in the final third that he requires to do so? I mean, he makes clever runs, intelligent runs. Yes, he can come in from the left, like George mentioned. To make that even better, I think he could have just dropped that into the near post and made Pickford look even bigger fool than he already is. But no, I think, again, it depends how Eddie puts players around him to make him that successful. I think he's got a very good shout of it. Again, depends the in and out between him and Wilson, what that rotation looks like. But for me, and George is right, from what I've seen of him last Wednesday, he's very, very slight. He's like a Sweden version of Elliot Anderson. He needs a bit of a bulk up, essentially, because he's thin, gangly, so I think he just needs to put a bit more good bulk on to be a little bit more stronger within that 9 role, essentially, is the central 3. If he does that, and yes, he's still got the pace and he's got the finishing ability, I think he's got a very good shout, just depending on other strikers within the league. I mean, he's got a contend against Haaland, Kane, potentially, unless he goes, and others. But why not? Yeah, again, it's all about, for me, service and providing him the opportunities to score.
Okay, Spenny, good evening, mate. Thanks for coming in. Stu, unavailable tonight, and you missed out on the fans forum, so always good to share it around and get you on. Give us your views on Isak. Is he going to be the top scorer in the Premier League this season?
I don't think he'll be the top scorer. I think Haaland's at a different level than every other striker, to be honest, at the moment, and he's got that team around him, which we hopefully will get ourselves in a couple of years. I think he'll get 20 goals, but I think Wilson might score more. Because the reason why, it's up to Eddie what he picks, yes, but I think it comes better when he comes in from the wing, from the left wing or the right wing, cutting inside, placing the ball in the middle for the centre forward, and coming in and taking players on. That's what I think anyway, what I've seen of him anyway. I would say that I could see Wilson maybe he's getting 25, 30 goals this season. The reason why, because of what he did in the second half of the season.
Yeah. Listen, I've got to be honest. I think it's an interesting comment by Dean Saunders today. Obviously, I didn't catch the interview. I've just read the quotes, but it can always be somebody different. There's been a few of the big hitters have left the Premier League as well now, so it will be interesting to see. But I think Kevin made a valid point about service. It's what kind of service he gets, and with Harvey Barnes pinging them in one side and potentially Miggy pinging them in another, it will be interesting to see. And I wouldn't write Wilson off yet, as Brian Crute says.
Like I said, and going back to what was said about being needing a bit more weight, you look at the other strikers that's been in the Premier League. You look at Andy Cole, he was Dundee and all that, and all the such odds. They were 40-odd goals a season guys. I don't think it's just where you put the ball in the net. Simple as that for me.
Yeah, okay. Spenny, we will ask you one question about the ticketing tonight. We don't want this to take over the show. I think we'll keep that for the amigos. We've already made a concerted effort not to talk about tickets much this week. But yeah, you were actually at one of the meetings at the club. Which meeting were you at? What was discussed?
The ticket meeting actually about the e-tickets, how it was going to happen and what else, and other things that's going to happen when people were moved in the ground and all that. I've got the questions down what I asked in the meeting. If you want us to carry on and give you the answer.
Go on. It would be interesting because I think it would clear up a lot of the stuff that I've seen on social media. It would clear it up. Just tell us what questions you put down and what questions they allowed you to be asked.
The first question was obviously about the e-tickets for non-mobile users. What are they going to get? And obviously that's come across that they go to the box office or something like that to replacement if you haven't got a phone. So I brought that up in the meeting and they listened to that and they took that on board, hopefully, what I said. Also, I did ask about when you're going in, that there should be family turnstiles. Say you've got like 3 or 4 burns with you, going in with one mobile phone, and you've got your season ticket for the whole of the bands are on that phone, which is going to cause a bit of a delay for other people to get in the ground. So I did suggest that we have like a family bit to go into the Gallagher end or the East Stand or something like that, which they could all go in, and then it's not time consuming as well. They also mentioned that 50% of the Premier League clubs will be using e-tickets this season. So we're a bit behind with this. Even the Macklins are getting it in anyway before us as well. So it's not a new thing, really. Next point was I suggested the season ticket holders get loyalty points when they get their season ticket renewed. The problem with obviously the loyalty points we get achieving when we get to the away games. Some of the fans can't get loyalty points. I know that there's ballot things going on as well at the moment, which I was informed today that the 100 points people try to log in and they got their 2,000 tickets were available out of 3,000, which I've been informed that 900 will go in the ballot and 100 will go to the what do you call them? The ones that's got the boss seats.
Corporate. Okay, corporate.
With corporate ones, and 100 will go to the corporate ones. So that's what I was told today. The safe standing, I brought up about season ticket holders being moved in the new seats. What they said about that is everyone in the Gallagher who has got the safe standing has been told if they don't want that area, they've got 3 options to move to cheaper seats, the seats amount they're paying for in money, or a higher seat, which is like in the Platinum Club or such, or that they could have that. And all them people are being positioned in the ground, which wanted to be moved. The next point was the 10-year deal. The 10-year deal finishes the end of the season, this season. So the people who's on that 10-year deal will be going to the, and they said that gradually they won't go over the full amount of money what I'm paying now, like other people are paying. They'll gradually ease them in to a bit of a shock of like, because I know some of them are only paying 300 quid a month, 300 quid a year for a season ticket and a 10-year deal. Darren Hayes was at the meeting and he did a little speech and he asked about how we felt about the increase in season tickets. I said, if the season ticket holders see where the money is going, there wouldn't be a problem if it was a little rise, like a 3%, 4% rise, which they have done. I also said the rise shouldn't happen to the disabled supporters as well, who are on benefits, because obviously most of them, obviously disabled supporters are on benefits, which will hit them if it's a bigger rise. They took that, and I didn't get an answer for that. They just took it on board. So I only got about 3 answers out of them. Also suggested that the Magpie mover, which you get, should be expanded in the areas of North East, not particularly in Newcastle as well. So like everybody has an option of that as well. That wasn't answered as well. The next question, which has been already answered, was the membership. I asked when the new membership will be and how will it be done. Will it be done by a ballot or an email to members that opt in or opt out, so it doesn't crash the website, which it has previously? The answer I got back for that was they're hoping to upgrade this website over the summer, so we don't get these problems with the crashing of the website, which it hasn't happened. Away tickets, I said this should be a priority to loyal fans who give away, but we need to combat it fairly so it stops selling tickets onto other supporters, and a point system for new season ticket holders may deter this. So like they've brought in what they brought in today, saying it, and then the away fans get, like I just said there, 900 get into a ballot because they've got less points. And also said, I wasn't in favour of a stadium expansion. I know it's going to be brought up later on. As long as the stadium's kept well updated to the opposite of Old Trafford and get that expanded further. I know Mitch has brought in plans as well to the show on that and showed them what we can do and what capacity of attendance we can do. And also, that's about it, really. All the things that have covered, the Champions League tickets and all that. The only problem I've got at the moment is the Champions League tickets. If members want to get Champions League tickets, they don't know how much it's going to cost. There's a blank page, if you look on their Champions League prices, and it's all blank down the side, how much it's going to cost members. So it may be more than 52 quid what we pay, Steve.
Interesting, Spenny. Interesting. Well, thanks for that update. I'll point that out to people. I'll probably clip that and stick that up on its own because I think it's quite an interesting for people to hear, because we've heard very little about what happened at these meetings. JB says younger generations mustn't be sidelined by older fans like myself for away tickets because they've had no chance to gain points. The thing is, JB, whenever I've been to an away game, all I see is young'uns. So who they get the tickets off and where they get the tickets, I don't know, but it's they're certainly 25, 30 years younger than me, a lot of these people who go to away games. That's for certain.
Simon's book.
Okay, Mitch.
Including my grandson.
Yeah. Okay, Mitch, let's get back to football. That's the ticket update. We'll resume that on Friday, I'm sure. But yeah, the Isak question. Is he going to be a Golden Boot winner this season?
He's sure enough to me to suggest he can do anything he wants to do, and I genuinely only use that about players that I think have all the talent in the world. That was my eternal frustration with ASM. He could do anything he wanted to, but Isak does it on a regular basis, a very regular basis. And he looks like he's only going to get better. The edge he has for me Everybody talks about that run against Everton and then the cross to make the goal that Murphy then scored. But what he was actually trying to do, if you look beforehand, he points at Wilson, who was on a hat-trick, and he was trying to get it through to Wilson. That is world-class situational awareness. How the hell, after you've just done that run, it's the 81st minute of the game, you've just left half of Everton in 7 of the basic ballet positions behind you, and then you can think, oh, my mate's on a hat-trick, I'm going to try and pass to him. That's world-class. That's knowing everything that's around you, everything that's going on in the game, and there's only very, very, very few players can do that. When you talk about what makes a good player a great player and a great player a special player, their margins are less than 0.5%. They're not much. But when you see what they are, then you realise, oh, good God, yeah, right, okay, he really did know what he was doing there. And it's things like that he does. You know, the goal he scored against Spurs, was it what, 4th or what, 5th? Can't remember. And he did that thing where he's like, this is crazy. Again, he knows everything that's going on the pitch. He couldn't obviously get his head around it too at the time. You know, he's shown he can when he dribbles with the ball, it's like it's on a bit of elastic. He's not frightened to go into challenges. He can do it with his left and his right, and so you know he's got the makings of an exceptional player. Yes, I think service for any striker is key, but I think Eddie Howe seems to be able to get the best out of him no matter what position he wants to put him in. I get Spenny's point about him not necessarily playing up front on his own and playing with Wilson in certain circumstances. And I have to say, when they have played together, they look like they can. It's not one of these situations when you chuck 2 strikers on and they just can't. And you can see it from the moment that they're paired together that they just don't work. And that's sometimes not the player's fault. It's sometimes situationally and tactically, it's just not right for each other. But again, how much of that is Isaac's ability to adapt to the situation and adapt to the role that he's asked to do? Because when he's out wide, your fullback doesn't look like he's got no cover. In fact, he seems to know his role and where he should be when he's playing out wide, tactically and defensively too. So I think he's shown he can do anything. If he gets a run clear as our number 9 and first choice up front with the people around him, he's already shown he's got the potential of 20 goals. There's no doubt about that. The question is, will he play all of those in the Premier League, given that we've got Champions League games and other games to factor in? But he is an exceptional player. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely is, Steve. Is he good enough to get that golden boot, though, off the likes of Harry Kane and Haaland?
Probably not. Purely because of the way that both of those players have adapted so well to the Premier League. I think he's behind Nunes. I think he's behind Salah. I think he's behind Alvarez, and Rashford in terms of goals. I think they are clinical goal scorers, all of them. And I think exceptionally skillful footballer, but I don't think yet we've seen that killer instinct in front of goal. We see it from Wilson now and again, and Wilson had an exceptional season, and I'd love to see them paired up. Talked about it many, many times last season. I worry slightly that somebody comes sniffing around for Wilson if they lose their main striker, and I'm thinking of Tottenham here. To be perfectly honest, I hope it doesn't happen. And I think the way things are going, if it did happen, I wonder who Newcastle would get to replace the likes of a Wilson. But getting back to Isak, no, I think an exceptional footballer, wonderful skills, but at the moment lacking that killer instinct. Perhaps another season in the Premier League, and then we'll start to see it. But at the moment, I think he's behind that squad of names that I've mentioned, Steve.
Okay, Steve, bit of a mixed bag on answers here.
Well, I'm going to start with my 2 tips to hat on. I've just been looking at the odds actually, and he's eighth top of the list to be top scorer. Obviously, Haaland odds on. Some of the names Steve mentioned there, Nunes, Rashford above him, as well as Harry Kane, Salah, and Jesus is the other one. And Nkundu, that's the new guy. Is that new guy Chelsea's got, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nkundu. Yeah, he's the same odds as that. He is ahead of Wilson, as it happens on the thing, but because I was thinking what was, likewise, Wilson sniffs around the area, but I think it's who gets the most. I wouldn't say games, because I think we're going to be rotating a lot, and I think that is the thing that will maybe stop him getting golden boot, because I think the forwards that we're going to play, I think we might be playing with false nines in some games, with and odd times, which did work at times last year where you played Isak and Wilson, and it was successful. There was a lot of debate, as you remember, whether they could play together. I think they showed that they could. But I think we're going to see a lot of rotation and maybe 60-minute performances, 65-minute performances from Isak, Wilson. You're going to have Gordon. You're going to have Harvey Barnes. You're going to have, Miggy. Lots of players are going to be rotating, and that's to our advantage as a club, because I think teams are going to be confused as to what our formation is going to be. I wouldn't like to be picking the team for Eddie Howe's in the first game. He has got fantastic potential. He scores all sorts of goals. He scored a good header from a cross. I think it was a Wolves game, was it? He scored a header, perfect header. He's banged the ball in from outside the box. He's done long dribbles. I'm counting the goal against Liverpool. That was a fantastic goal, and it wasn't offside in my view, but that was one of his best. And obviously the goal that he didn't score, it was goal of the month, goal of the season nearly, and yet he didn't. He was the one that didn't score it. All the credit goes to Murphy for the goal, but all the credit was for him for what a fantastic run. And because of his versatility, I think we've got somebody that can. He might not get golden boot, but he can going to contribute in a significant way. That's as I say, I think he'll have a great season, and I think we'll see a lot of him.
Okay, I've got to be honest. I don't think he's going to get the golden boot this season. I think he'll be in the goals. I think he'll be potentially a 20-goal striker this season. But I think Haaland, and the fact that he plays in such a wonderful team who just keep on signing wonderful players at Man City, will be out ahead of the rest again. I dare say he could get 50 goals again this season if he has the same kind of injury-free run as he had last year. Harry Kane, I wouldn't believe that he's leaving. I think he'd want to break Shearer's record, and I think he'll stay. I think he'll be there or thereabouts on 25 again. Isak, where will he be? He's got to have a good run with injuries, but I think he could be a 20-goal a season man, certainly this season. A lot more games to play, of course, as well in European competitions. So it'll be interesting. We will see. Get your questions in for George. I did send a few topics out to the lads tonight, and one of them was a new stadium. It avoids the ticket question stuff, which, as I said, we'll cover heavily on Friday. But the new stadium, I mean, Peter Silverstone, I sent you guys a link. The interview he did with Lee Ryder in the Chronicle, George. I'm not sure whether you had time to read it, but
yes, I did.
He said a lot of things. But one of them was that a new stadium is not what they're looking at. They are looking at building on the stadium. Improving the stadium that they've got. But if the demand increases and they've got a supply and demand, because if Newcastle start winning things, it's going to go through the roof. Is a new stadium something that you would like to see, George, if they could keep it in and around the same area?
I wouldn't want it to move far. I think the Cathedral on the Hill is an important bit of Newcastle, not just the football club, the city as well. So I'm happy to see it not very far from where it is now. Yes, I read what Silverstone said. In typical chief executive, he said lots, tons, but no information really. I mean, some of the things he said about the stadium God, Steve, you, Neil, the other Steve, you've been talking like that about the stadium for the last 2 and a bit years. I mean, none of that was new. In fact, I always wondered if you'd had out your old tapes out and had a look before you came and did that, because he did say an awful lot. Yeah, he did say an awful lot, but not much information. It was just generalising what you'd expect a chief operating officer to do, and about the other things that he talked about, which, it's all good stuff. The stuff about Castore. Did he give you any new information about that? Of course he didn't. He just said what you'd expect a good operating officer to say was, well, we're not going to pay on their backs because they're the people we're working with now. What's the point of doing that? You know, and same with the other things, and how the one thing he did reveal, but I don't even think that was a surprise to me, because of what you lads have been saying about the Cellar deal. They knew the Cellar deal months ago. But out of courtesy to all the people that are already involved with, they didn't release it. And I still think when we did find out about it, it was somebody in the Premier League that let slip, not somebody at Newcastle United. So, yes, it was lovely to see him talk like that, but it was no surprise what he was saying, because he didn't really give that much information away. But it was good to see him talking. I talked to Neil and Steve Hasty earlier today, and I said, it's funny. I read it and sit and thought about it. And you know what it reminded me of the demise of the shipyards on Tyneside, because that's exactly what happened. The universities, the unions, the staff were telling the owners, this is happening in Japan and Korea, and if you don't do something, we know, we'll catch up with them and all the rest of it. We're the boss, we're the owners, and that's worrying, you know. But it's what happens when you get involved with big companies. And as I say, the man spoke, give lots of talk, but very little new information. All that he said, I could have gone back on the tapes of you lads, as 3 of me goes, and got most of it there.
I think he really, a lot of this was PR exercise to try and sell the Cellar Cup. I'm really going to be interested to see how many people are in the ground. I'd anticipate 30,000, but I think they thought this was going to be a lot more successful. Kevin, I guess the answer is going to be the same for most of you, but the cathedral on the hill, as George calls it. If we do have to build a new stadium, is a stone's throw, maybe he's onto Leazes Park, and maybe he's reciprocate, give them the St James's Park land for them to have a new park. Is that the kind of idea that you would back?
I would absolutely back it. And from things I've seen from over here and comments from our owners, is I'm blessed enough to go into Mercedes-Benz on a weekly basis. I think that's going to be a template of ideas of if we do actually go into a new stadium. However, I think that can still occur at St James's Park. It's again, that's a lot of manipulation of concessions and where things go and whatever. So that's a bigger out of potential money to redevelop internally. But again, I'm a traditionalist. I've been there going since I was in '93. I'm the young end of the group, but I've been going since in the early '90s. But I would always call it and be St James's Park, the cathedral on the hill, because it's the memories of walking up to that stadium. I wouldn't want it to move. I would try and redevelop it as where it is. In different facets, there's many different ways, and Mitch can delve into it a little bit with architecture and how it's done and things like that, which we already know about. But I would want to keep it there, just based on the historical value of the place in the city, because it's, like George said, the cathedral on the hill. You can see it from the time when you're looking up into the city. You can see it, and it's when you come across from London on a train or wherever it is, you can see it's like, I'm home. And it's a landmark when I get home, and I get always emotional about it when I get back to England and I see it coming from the other side of the river. I know I'm home, and I can see the Tyne Bridge, and I can see St James's Park up there. But again, the demand, obviously what Silverstone said, and again, it's just like a lip service. Essentially, he's got to say what he's got to say. Nothing new's come out from that. But again, if needs be, it would have to be literally a stone's throw from where it currently is. And I know that could cause, again, another uproar in terms of accessibility for disabled fans, or, different roads you get to, like you've got to walk a little bit further and things like that. That could create another massive uproar. What, again, would that be communicated with fans? Would that be just done? Would it be a certain select few? How would that work? So again, that's another Pandora's box, which we can open at a later date. But again, if it's going to be modernized, I think it would have to be done internally, because again, from what I know, since I've worked there and others that I know that work there, it's fallen apart bit by bit, and it's just papering over the cracks internally. So if it is redevelopment from where we currently are at St James's Park, it would have to be a full rebuild of, not a rebuild, but a full redevelopment of the current site, in my opinion. But again, I'm not opposed to a move if it was relatively close in a new modernized stadium. And I would recommend anybody have a look at the stadium I get to, where we played against Chelsea this weekend, because that's a groundbreaking stadium, and I think we can take bits and pieces from that and put it into our own and make it our own. But the problem with that is, like West Ham have found out, moving from the bowling ground to where they are now, is, can we create that same atmosphere? Can we create our own identity as our own? When away teams come to St James's Park, they know they come to St James's Park and it's going to be the atmosphere, the cauldron, and it's not going to be a nice place to come and play football. But again, if you build a new one, are you going to create that same identity? But that would be my only worry and only issue.
Okay, Spenny, would you like a brand new shiny stadium like the Mercedes Stadium that we've seen in Atlanta, or would you like Newcastle to build bricks and mortar on what's already there?
I'm a bricks and mortar guy myself. The history of the club, where it is, and all that. I don't want to leave, even if it's just over the latest part, which has been obviously said. I like where I'm at. There's potential to grow, to make it 20,000 extra or 15,000 extra. You know what I mean? I know the guy who was saying in the Chronicle that the site is getting data analysed all the time for people who's getting all this demand, which was mentioned at the meeting as well. But this guy, I think we got from abroad, he's come in, and this data analyst, I think he's taken control of the team to check this website out and see how much demand is. But like Mitch will tell you, and Steve and them will tell you, these big people who come in, the money men, these got a project, and they're about a year or two ahead of what we know. These projects are already agreed. You know what I mean? Like, I work in a big company, and we found our little things, but within 1 or 2 years, these things were happening. But they knew all about it. So I don't know where. I don't trust these money men. Like Brian Clough said, these men are not football men. Simple as that.
Okay, Mitch, thoughts on a new stadium?
Well, we've talked about it quite some length over time. And I made my peace a long time ago that if an owner came in and said, look, the only way to solve this conundrum is to build a new ground, then so be it. That probably makes me in a minority, I think. But I think that's, I think if you'd had the conversations I'd had and seen some of the things I'd seen, I think you'd probably feel the same way. With regards to Silverstone, he sounded like that guy for Fast Show. On Sportswear Manufacturer, brilliant. Adidas, they're brilliant. On Puma, brilliant. They're good. Castoria were with them. They're good as well. It was a lot of nothing. But somebody in that position probably should be being very careful with his words and saying lots without saying anything. I think that's called playing the game. I think his comment that the best partner is the one you're with was very telling. Yeah. About where we go with Castoria. But that's the first time I've heard somebody from the club take ownership of this in some way, just by saying, hey, we're in a partnership. And at the minute, we're being let down by part of that partnership. And that would suggest to me he's acutely aware of that. There's a veiled set of words there. It's what hasn't been said within that sentence that's probably more important. There's a little update on my experiment, by the way. My order that I placed that was under process for a while has suddenly popped up as being with DHL. However, it's not going to get to us until next Monday. And it's currently in Liverpool.
Wow.
Around
the world.
Top 3 and sending it our way.
I know.
Unbelievable. Steve, what's your take on the new stadium talk? Obviously, they're talking about just building on the existing stadium. We spoke on the Amigos about the stack being associated with the club as a short-term fix for a fan zone, which will be launched in November. Our thoughts to that were that this is because potentially there's going to be ground expansion or even maybe a new ground. So what's your thoughts on Silverson's interview today?
Silverson's probably the most important man from fans' point of view at St James's Park after Eddie Howe, because his job's to bring the money in. That's the way I see him. And at the moment, his little speech, or whatever you want to call it, little sort of first utterance in the press since he took the job up, nearly a year ago, he's, as Mitch said, he's praising everybody who we already deal with. There was nothing there that indicated that there are other big major sponsors in the horizon. Nothing like that. He didn't give anything away. Mitch said it was the fast show. Yeah, it was a bit Swiss Tony, wasn't it? In the way that he put himself over. Praise to high heaven. I found that bit about the relationship with Castore and about being a partnership. I thought that was a dig at the fans, to be perfectly honest, because I thought it was trying to deflect some of the issues that many of us supporters have with Castore in terms of the quality of that customer service. And this guy's in charge of customer service. He's in charge of the whole marketing of the club, and that partner's failing miserably. You just have to look at the club shop to see that. The number of other partners they have in terms of memorabilia, in terms of merchandise that the club's currently involved with. There used to be 24 key partners at St James's Park. There's nowhere near that. I think there's 3 or 4 now, if that, coming out of the marketing department. So there's an awful lot of work to be done, and he's the man who's got to do the work. And in terms of the stadium, I was very much a St James's Park sacrosanct. But that little bit of influence that Mitch has over me has certainly turned my opinion over the last sort of 6 months. I'm looking and I saw the delight of the fans when they were in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium Atlanta, and what they were coming back and talking about. And I thought, you know what? If we do have aspirations, then we do need a stadium like that. We do need a top-class stadium. And if we've got, how many people apply for membership? I've heard rumours it could be 80, 100,000. No data to prove or disprove that. No facts. But if that's the case, then it shows you the demand. The key for that, however, in filling the ground is making sure the price of the ticketing is right. So, and we've already seen how it can cause ructions if you offer someone a £74 ticket rather than a £44 ticket. So that's the fine line that the likes of Silverson has to tread.
Okay, Steve, would you like a shiny new stadium?
I think my concern, I think I've said this before on this show, is the impact on the current ground if we're trying to redevelop it, because going back to the turn of the century when we changed it from the sort of second phase stadium, which came in the early 90s, when we got promoted at that time, to what was the current format. The capacity had to drop to 36,000, and it took a long time because they'll keep having to make it into a football stadium and then make it back to a building site and go back and forward. So it's going to prolong the process. on that basis, then I think we should revisit, as part of the feasibility study, which is going to be supposedly being conducted either now or about to start. Yes, look at all the options and the cost options and the implications of issues like that, and the possibility of having a new stadium in Leazes Park, because the reasons why it was knocked on the head then may not be the same reasons that are there now as to why you don't do it. But that wouldn't, moving a little bit further away like that wouldn't be a problem. Kevin mentioned about the disabled access. St James's Park is awful for disabled access because it's all uphill from the town centre. So it's not an easy place to get to. So if you make it more capable of, moving a couple of 100 yards up into Leazes Park and provide another bus service that takes you into there, or extend the metro line from St James's up that way, all things he could look at, it probably would be better for disabled fans. I wouldn't object to a big stadium. The issue is the size. You don't want to go too big. We don't want to be finding ourselves rattling around in an 80,000 seater stadium when, odd games there might be a demand for 60,000. So you've got to be careful on the size you make it. If you look at, say, Tottenham, for example, I don't know what sort of restrictions they had, but they're only about 62,000 if I think, on the brand new stadium they've got. An excellent stadium, very similar in some ways to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in terms of it's like a bowl, and it obviously not as enclosed as the Atlanta one, but it seems to have that effect of wrapping things round. And I haven't been there for a game. I've been in it on a guided tour, and it's supposed to generate a hell of a lot of noise. And if we make St James's even louder than it already is, it'll be something that'll be to our advantage. I would err towards a new stadium, as long as it's very close. I wouldn't be going down to Quayside or any further afield. I think it's got to be in the city centre, and put it in Leazes Park, a little bit further up from where it is now, wouldn't be too much of a disadvantage.
Okay, interesting topics. Yeah, go on, George.
Just looking at the straps along the bottom, I can't see many of them, but I've seen one from somebody called JJ talking about modern stadiums being built underground. Well, I have to say, St James's Park, when it was first built, modernised, was a lot underground. In fact, so far underground, they had to get a coal mining permission off the government before they could start the new pitch. And they took about 100,000 tons of coal out of the ground before they put the new pitch down.
Crazy, that, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. But yeah, will be interesting. We'll see what happens. We haven't got many Ask George questions, but we do have a few. Question for George: what's the best debut that you've witnessed?
Sorry, what's the best
debut that you've witnessed?
Still missed it, Steve. Sorry.
We've got a bit of refurb, lads.
Feedback.
Yeah. Can you all mute your mics, please? Somebody's got some feedback. Might be you, Spenny, because you came back in after you'd gone out. I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah. So the question's on the screen. A question for George: what's the best debut he witnessed?
Best debut. Oh, Malcolm McDonald, Super Mac. He came in, playing Liverpool, the top team, and everybody was expecting to get a shellacking anyway, but nah, he frightened Liverpool to death, and he frightened himself to death when he heard the fans singing the songs by the time the game was over. No, Malcolm McDonald, without a shadow of a doubt, a hat-trick against the league champions? No bother. Yeah, he set the tune alight all right. There've been others that have been good, but not many can match that one.
Mickey Quinn for me, I've got to be honest. I thought that was a fantastic debut, but that's my era. Question for George. Last question. What do you think of the new Premier League rules, says Tom?
Well, as a Newcastle fan, they look a bit manipulated, I'm afraid. Things that seem to have suddenly been developed to make life difficult for Newcastle United. Even the stuff about the touchline, only so many people in the technical area. We were the only club that didn't have a charge against us for bad touchline behaviour, and yet the whole country perceives that that rule was made for us, and we're the only ones that didn't have a touchline charge against us in the Premiership. So things like that make you think, well, yeah, and then all the stuff about advertising and having to be proper value and all the rest of it. No, it's okay as long as we all play by the same rules. But I'm still not convinced we are.
Okay, that is the 2 questions for Ask George this week. Somebody sneaked an Ask Hasty in. David Cook, he says, question for Steve Hasty. Is the food bank collection on the go this weekend? I would like to come and say hello. You're on mute, Steve. Sorry, that's my fault for telling you to go on mute.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not sure whether I'll be there. I've got a work commitment on Saturday until halfway through the afternoon, and I might have a work commitment on Sunday. But I'm hoping I'll be there on Sunday, and we'll see you there, David. But yes, I think they're going to be there from about 11:30 both days. That's the plan anyway.
Okay, a big shout out to a couple of people watching tonight. Big shout out to Reese and a big shout out to Liam, Spenny's pals, who said they would tune in tonight. Thanks for watching. And last topic of conversation tonight, George, is Matt Targett. Is he going to resurrect his career at Newcastle, do you think? Because he came in, he got off to a great start, but then through no fault of his own, through injury and illness, he was usurped by Dan Burn, big Dan Burn. Now, he's had a decent pre-season. Is there an opportunity for Matt Targett to stake a claim?
There is, and I hope he does, because I like Matt Targett when he came in, and he seemed to fit in very nicely, and we waited patiently to get him. So yes, I think he could, and I hope he does, because I like Matt Targett. For me, he's a proper fullback. I love Dan Burn, don't get me wrong, but there's still a bit of me that says Dan Burn is a centre-back, not a full-back. Doesn't matter what Eddie Howe says, of course. It does when he picks a team. But I would love to see Matt Targett back again.
Okay, there was a cheeky question from John Allen. He says, George, will I get a ticket in the ballot?
Of course you will. I'll fix it up straight away. I'll be on the phone first thing, John.
Okay, good stuff. Can you knock your mics off, lads? Because there is a bit of feedback still coming through. I don't know where it's come from. Some gremlins in the system, I think. Matt Targett and Kev, from your perspective, what would you say?
Like him as a fullback. I think he's a better fullback than Dan Burn, in my opinion. I think Burn gets caught in between the left-sided centre-back and a fullback with his positioning sense. Plus, Targett's got a bit more pace about him. Not saying he's a better defender or whatever, but in terms of going forward, I think it was the Brighton game, and he was bombing on, helping out Gordon on that left side, or Harvey Barnes on that left side, making overlapping runs, underlapping runs. I just fear for Dan Burn in terms of his lack of pace. That was shown to the world against Chelsea when he got moved inside and within between him and Sven Botman, the ball in between, and they got done and they scored. So that's the only worry. But I mean, look, like we've always said, it's up to him if he wants to be the first choice fullback, and it's up to him if he works hard, gets his head down, and develops how we should think he should develop under Eddie Howe. Then I don't think he has a problem staking a claim moving forward, to be perfectly honest. But again, it's all down to him. Like we've said about every player, it's down to him. The playbook's there for you. There's an American phrase. You just got to ingest it, whatever you got to do, figure it out. We're not going to hold you again. We don't hold your hand. You're a grown professional. You should know how this works. If you want to get in the first team, you're going to have to perform when you have that opportunity. I think he's done that over the pre-season, but again, thankfully, I don't have to make them decisions at the end of the day. But I would possibly start him against Villa, to be fair. I don't know why. I've just got a hunch that he might get a nod over Dan Burn. I just think Burn's been found out a little bit, in my opinion.
Okay, interesting, controversial.
I'm always controversial. It's all right.
When it comes to the big kickoff, I'm sure we'll have plenty of more controversial opinions throughout the season. George, Tim Cairns is in the chat. He just reminded me that he'd sent me an Ask George this week via Instagram. Here it is. Steve, a question for George on Wednesday. Something that really agitates me. Some claim it's upmanship. However, I say it's cheating. Taking corners from outside the designated area. What are your thoughts, George? And who came up with the idea? Oh, you're on mute, George.
The people that came up with the idea are the people that want to cheat. Simple as that. Yeah, you know, look at football's football. And if somebody can see an advantage, they're going to try it. You know, my hero's Jackie Milburn. Well, Jackie Milburn used to do it. I mean, people talk about players having words with other players to upset them. Jackie Milburn used to do it when he used to go past somebody at 100 miles an hour and leave the fullback sitting on his backside. And he'd come back the other way, and on his way past, he sometimes used to say, "You think that was quick? Wait till the next time." You know, and same with this thing about corners and everything else. The other thing about cheating is that I want to go back to the time when you didn't have to have your elbow in somebody's face to jump ahead of ball. All of that was brought in, and the referees let it come in the modern football era, and I think that's a nonsense. We spent hours at St James's Park training to jump ahead of ball without having your elbow up there. You know, this notion you've got to do that to get up. Sorry, it's cheating. There you go.
Okay, Steve, back to Matt Targett.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? Kevin says he could start against Villa.
I wouldn't be against that either. I think if we go back to the end of the half season he had with us on loan, everybody was wanting him, you know, to stay on, and because he really played well then in a team that wasn't as strong as it is now. And I think it was unfortunate his injury, and then Dan Burn took over and did well, and he didn't really get a chance to get back in. But I think, you know, it's a blank sheet of paper with the start of the new season, and I think that's how Eddie Howe will treat it as well. I think his advantage over Burn is he's more of an attacking player. He can cross the ball, he can take free kicks, so it isn't always going to be the case that we're going to rely on Trippier. We've already talked about Tonali, maybe he's taking free kicks, and I think we've seen that that he can take corners and free kicks as well. So I think he's more versatile in supporting whoever's going to be on the left wing, which is also going to change every game. So I would like to see him given a chance. You know, whoever we bring in, if there's still talk of bringing in a left back, he's going to have to be exceptional to put them both out of place.
Okay, Spenny, Matt Targett fan. You're on mute, mate. Sorry, I've got everyone muted because of that feedback. Sorry.
Oh, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can.
I'm a Matt Targett fan. I think he should be playing instead of Burn, but I don't think Eddie will play him instead of Burn. I think Burn will be playing instead of Targett. For me, I think Eddie likes Burn better. The reason why Burn was exploited last year, I think for a reason was because of the left-hand side, what's in front of him, mainly with Max and sometimes Willock, to be honest. It's not fair enough. He's not pace. Pace is not his best thing, but his position play is good. Burns. Also, it's up to what happens in the next few days or next week. I think we'll get a left back in by next week before the Villa game. Whether or not he plays or not, I don't know.
Okay, Mitch, Matt Targett. I've got to be honest. I liked him when he first came to Newcastle. He was my favourite signing other than Trippier, and he definitely gave us balance. He gets stuck in. He's a good old-fashioned fullback.
Well, his asset is probably what makes we forget what he actually was. He was a steady, solid 7.5, 8 out of 10 every game, but he wasn't stellar, and so you can't go back to the games he played and think, hey, do you remember that game where Matt Targett was brilliant and he did everything? He was up and down the wing and he made 2 goals and he stopped the ball on the line. No, he was just a very steady, solid citizen who was very dependable in that position. And I think he was really unlucky to lose out to Burn in the way that he did. And fair play to Burn for keeping his place in the side. I think with Targett in the side, we've got better balance. We've got a proper fullback who positionally won't be caught between two stools. Now, I think in the last 6 games of the season, that's what let Burn down for me as a fullback. I think he got dragged all over the place. I think particularly when we lost at Villa, Emery had worked out what to do with him. And he was popping up on the right back. He was popping up in centre midfield. And it was like they worked out that he wasn't a proper fullback and his positioning was suspect. And so they came up with a way to drag him out of position as much as possible. So for me, it was a shame that he never really got back in. And he's got a fantastic opportunity this pre-season to lay a marker down to the boss and say, put me back in, that's where I want to be. And he would also then, if he could show that to us, potentially save with 20 or 30 million pounds for signing.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the reasons I brought it up tonight. You know, it could save us a bit of money, but I've got to be honest. I agree with Spenny. I think there'll be a full back comes in sooner rather than later. Steve, Matt Targett, is he going to be destined to be just another one of these squad members that's in and around the periphery waiting for a chance, or is Kevin right? Is he gonna get a call up on that first game of the season?
I'm with Kevin Mitch on this one. I think Matt Targett, he was bought as a left back, and that's where he should be playing. And I think Dan Burn was bought as a central defender, and that's where he should be playing. I think the problem, obviously, he had an injury last season, but as Mitch says, towards the end of the season, I thought Burn's game was all over the place, and I think Burn had the advantage because it kind of created and turned into a bit of a cult hero, but he had the advantage that he was a centre half playing out of position, and people going, "Oh, isn't he doing well for a centre half?" When he was fitting in at fullback, and then all of a sudden, like you say, the wheels did come off a little bit. I think Mitch is absolutely spot on. He's a solid 8 out of 10, 7.5 to 8. And when he came, £15 million, we were all absolutely delighted that he had signed, and he was just unfortunate. Now's the time for players to get a grip and to win the shirt. And I think Eddie is now going to be at the point where he's going to be looking at them, and we saw it with Murphy last season. You play well, you keep the shirt. You know, that's the nature of the game, and it's going to be a long, hard season. And I'm also unsure whether we'll get another left back. I don't know why. I just have this feeling that things are dragging on too long. Livramento, for example, it's gone from 20 to 30 to now 40 million pound, and I always worry. And for me, this is the added sort of charge that clubs are putting on Newcastle United to also stifle it in the same way as we're being stifled in. We can't sell players for the price that we think they're worth. It has to be the value that's placed on Newcastle players by the other 19, because it's the Premier League. So I feel as though we're getting stifled and hammered in both directions. And as for the rules, somebody asked George about the rules and whether that absolutely, of course we are. The knives are out for us.
Am I the only one that's seen on the internet today that we're closing the negotiations on an Italian defender?
Yeah, he's another young one. He's another young one, right. George. It was again one of those misleading headlines.
Yeah, he's Irish.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I've been told tonight we close with the party for Man City.
The other one was that on the strap, I did catch another one about the cheating issue, and somebody made the mistake of mentioning throw-ins. Yeah, when Neil and Steve will tell you, I could do a whole show on throw-ins.
We'll start doing that when those were the dates finishes, George. Yeah. George, this will be the last time we see you before you go in for your operation. On behalf of everybody at NUFC Matters, we just want to wish you well. Nothing too serious. Going to try and get your eyes fixed. So best of luck on that operating theatre, and just enjoy the lie down for a couple of days.
Well, can I thank you all, but also all of the people who get involved with this for the last few months. It hasn't been easy. I can't pretend, losing Marjorie and all of that. And all you people have been great. Keep me spirits up. Keep us busy. I that goes down very well with me. So thank you, and thank you for your good wishes. And I look forward to coming back again very soon.
See you in the match, George.
Well, I hope to get back once my eyes is done. Yeah.
I'll tack you up again.
Great stuff, lads. Thanks to George. Thanks to Kevin. Thanks to Steve, Mitch, and Danny. Thanks to you. Thanks to everybody moderating the chat. I'm back tomorrow with the Champions League show, and I'm going to do a little cameo on John Sinclair's channel. I did promise him I'd pop on at some point, so I'm going to go on there tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So give John a sub if you can. Have a good night, fellas. Take care. See you soon.
Good night, everybody.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces Handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket, win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com. We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.